The chapter begins with a strange woman lying on top of a man as she holds a cigarette. The man named Chu Ching begins waking up and startles the woman. She leans on him as he wakes up and talks to him. Chu Ching wonders where he is and is shocked at the awkward situation he finds himself in. He quickly jumps out of bed as the woman sees him. She asks if the effects of the drug she gave him wore off so quickly and says it seems that people who are awake are more attractive. Chu Ching wonders if he got reborn into a different world and panics as the woman sits on the bed. He holds his head as he thinks about what is going on. Chu Ching talks to himself and says he accidentally entered the fairy world 300 years ago at a mountain. He says he began his cultivating journey after arriving at the realm. Chu Ching floats above a symbol as energy moves around it. He smiles as his sword rests on his back and glows. Chu Ching says he worked hard over 300 years to gain a vast amount of knowledge. He practiced both day and night in order to become a swordsman cultivator. Chu Ching sits and meditates in the realm as he is surrounded by a vast amount of energy. He says something happened as he tried to reach the realm of eternity and he was unable to. Unexpectedly, he didn't enter the realm of eternity, but opened a hall of time and space. The hall returned Chu Ching to Earth as a 17-year-old teenager. He wonders who the woman sitting on the bed is, and wonders what she wants from him. She asks him not to be shy and asks him to sit on the bed as she taps it. Chu Ching puts on a robe and says they have a misunderstanding. He says he wants to leave, and she stands up. She says her name is Yi Chen-chi, and says she never lets go of her pigeons. She tells him to be happy because seeing her is a blessing. Chu Ching ignores Chen-chi as she speaks and walks away. She gets annoyed, rushes to him, and grabs his wrist. Chu Ching notices how strong she is as he tries to break free. He grabs her hand and they both struggle with surges of energy. He complains that his body doesn't have enough energy. Chen-chi pushes him away and he regains his balance. She prepares to continue the struggle, but Chu Ching sees his school uniform hanging. He realizes that he has to escape and grabs the uniform. He runs out of the house with the uniform as Chen-chi watches. She lights a cigarette and says Chu Ching is interesting because he can escape her momentum. She calls him her little white rabbit and says she'll never let him escape. Meanwhile, Chu Ching walks on the streets as several people walk around. He says it's been 300 years since he was on the earth and stares up in happiness as he says he can finally see his father, mother, and brother again. He suddenly hears a strange voice and the person says that men are troublesome. The woman asks a man why he would cry because she didn't buy a bag for him. She tells him not to cry and says she'll buy the bag for him. The man hugs her and behaves like a woman. He tells her she's kind while hugging his arm and raising his leg. Chu Ching watches what happens and is confused. A large person pushes him out of the road as he stands. He realizes it's a woman carrying several bags of cement, and she asks him to stop blocking the road. The large women walk to a construction site where several other women work. Chu Ching wonders what's going on as he says that the people are different from when he left the world. He sees that women are in charge and run almost all parts of the world. The Tianjing Library, where Chu Ching goes through several history books to understand what's going on in the world. He sees a great cataclysm occurred in ancient times between spring and autumn. The event altered women's physiology and made them smarter and stronger. Later on, a woman named Kong Mo was born, and she developed an ideology that women around the world are superior to their male counterparts. Her ideology changed the imperial power of the monarchy from king and made queens in charge. In the 21st century, the idea of women being superior to men began to slowly change, but the ideology of women being valued over men remained. Men are usually punished if they engage in sexual misconduct, while women are disturbed. It's common for women to chase after men and flirt with them. Chu Ching is still in disbelief as he sits in the library. He still wonders how women are in charge and how they are the ones going after men. He wonders if his family has become reversed like the rest of the world. Chu Ching's dad sweeps the house while wearing an apron. Chu Ching sees him as he enters the house and smiles. He rushes and hugs him, and Lin Yuan-tu is surprised. He reminds Chu Ching that he said he'll be going to his friend's house after school and will return home late that night. Lin sniffs Chu Ching's hair and realizes he has perfume on him. He panics and he asks Chu Ching if he was with a woman while he is outside of the house. He grabs Chu Ching and says it's dangerous for a handsome boy like him to go outside. He says he must remain alert even if he goes out with his friends. Lin waves a newspaper around as he says that a 15-year-old boy was sexually assaulted and videoed. The video was spread and Lin says the boy doesn't have a future anymore. Chu Ching stands in shock as he listens to what his father says. Lin says the situation is scary and talks about Chu Ching's sister. He says that she has been at home all day and fooling around. He says that she graduated from a third-rate university and isn't able to find a job. He says he and his wife didn't expect much from her. Lin says Chu Ching should go to a good university. He says he's still young and advises him not to get fooled by bad girls. Chu Ching smiles as he says he understands and tells his dad not to worry too much about him. Chu Ching asks where his mom is, and Lin says she is talking about business with some people outside. He says their business isn't going well as he looks worried. Chu Ching says he thinks it's time to eat and says he'll go and call his sister from her room. Lin agrees and Chu Ching walks away. He goes to his sister's room and opens the door as she stares at her computer and blushes. Chu Ching's sister, named Chu Xiao, sitting in her room and using her computer. She blushes as she watches an erotic video on the screen. She tells the man on the screen to take off his clothes and says he knows how to make her happy. She says she will send him a reward and has tissues on her table. Chu Ching shuts the door as he is in shock and wonders what's going on. He wonders if he is in a dream and screams as loud as he can. Chu Xiao falls to the ground as she is startled and wonders what is going on. She stands up and walks out of the room with an aura of satisfaction surrounding her. Chu Ching stares at Chu Xiao as she steps out. He asks her if she was watching pornography in her room. She says there's nothing good about pornography, and she says she enjoys live broadcasts. She says the guy in the broadcast is handsome and young, and says she had fun while watching it. She says that broadcasts aren't for little boys like him, and walks away as he sings. Chu Ching giggles as he watches her walk away. Later that day, Chu Ching sits in the living room with his dad, and Chu Xiao walks in while wearing a black gown. He says she will return home late and eat out with her friends. She asks her father to give her 1,000 yuan so she can use it to have fun. Lin asks her why she needs to go out as he uses a knife to peel an apple. Chu Xiao says she has to go out and socialize with her friends. She also says she will discuss business with them. Lin gets annoyed as she talks and throws the money at her. He tells her she always behaves the same and doesn't want to change. Lin suggests that she learn from her brother. He says he and her mother won't be worried about her if she can be half of what her brother is. Chu Xiao sticks her tongue out as she is happy and counts the money. She asks why she should be like Chu Ching and says he can get married to a rich woman. She says she will have to work hard and struggle to get what she wants. She says her parents will have to support her in the future. Chu Xiao takes the money and says she'll leave. Lin tells her to save some money and says that it's not easy for her mother to make money because of the state of their business. He tells her not to waste the money he gave her, and she leaves the house. Chu Ching eats a snack and asks Lin if it's alright to let Chu Xiao leave the house like that. Lin says they can't do anything because she's a girl. He says they can't hold her down the way they hold him down. He says that girls have to go out and earn money, but tells him to forget about his sister because of her attitude and hopes she stays out of trouble. Chu Ching puts the snack in his mouth and says the world is a feminist world. Chu Tianen, Chu Ching's mom, enters the house and looks exhausted. Chu Ching sees her, runs to her and hugs her as he is happy to see her. Chu Tianen wondering why Chu Ching is hugging her so much. She asks if his allowance isn't enough, but Chu Ching keeps hugging her. He is devastated as she leaves money in his hand and walks away. He says his mom was always stingy with money and he had to deceive her to get money just to play video games. She gives her husband her bag and he takes off her jacket. Chu Ching tells her he doesn't need the money and tries to give it back to her. She calls him silly and asks him to keep the money. She says their family's going through a difficult time, but says she won't allow it to affect him. Chu Tianan says Chu Ching's academic performance is her greatest pride and he is lost for words. She asks where Chu Xiao is and Lin says they shouldn't talk about her. She realizes that Chu Xiao is still fooling around and says she didn't raise her in the way she is behaving. She says she'll eventually understand the importance of her future responsibilities. Lin gives her a glass of water and Chu Ching watches as they flirt. He feels uncomfortable and says he knows the world is in reverse, but he can't accept it. Chu Tianan says she's right and men's lives are easier than women's. She says that a woman has to struggle throughout her life. Chu Tianan says they should let Chu Xiao do what she wants. She says she'll realize her responsibility soon and says she's still their daughter. Lin calls Chu Tianan his beloved wife and says she is right. He asks her if she is hungry and says he has prepared food for her. Chu Ching wonders if he will be like them in the future and gets uncomfortable as he vomits rainbows. He tells his parents he will be in his room and leaves as he is full of disgust. Chu Ching enters his room and sees that it looks feminine. He stares at a mirror and remembers that women are the dominant gender of the world. He says that every family wishes to have a daughter and not a son. This ideology has grown over the years and has greatly affected the world's male and female populations. He says there are tens of millions of women who are single in the country. Women must have a nice house and a good car before they can marry a decent man. He says that women will pursue men as long as they are handsome and men don't go through any stress. Chu Ching walks to his table and says he is a good match for a lot of women because of how handsome he is. He is shocked as he opens his drawer and sees hundreds of letters from various admirers. He says he didn't expect to be the school flower of Jinmen Middle School. He sits on his bed and says he has to cultivate his powers so he can leave the world immediately. He begins to meditate as energy surrounds him, and he says the aura in the house is very rich and pure. He says he can use it to regain his training as well as the abilities he lost in the Hall of Time and Space. Chu Ching says he can use the new energy to open a Hall of Time and Space and return to his original world where things are normal. Chu Ching remembers his parents and says he has to leave the strange upside-down world and return to his original world immediately. He practices an ability called Golden Freedom and says it has sharpened all his senses. He continues meditating and decides to test his senses and see if it works. Chu Ching's energy moves through the house as he checks on his family. He sees that his parents are asleep in their room and his mom sleeps in a scattered position while his dad is calm. His energy enters Chu Xiao's room and no one is inside. He realizes that she hasn't returned to the house from where she went. He then remembers that the world is upside down and it's not surprising for a woman to stay out of her house late. He suddenly gets a call from his sister and answers it. He tries to talk to her, but she tells him to let her speak. She says she is in trouble and asks him not to tell her parents. Two women hold her to the ground as she is tied up, and one stares at her. Chu Ching talking to his sister Chu Xiao over the phone. She tells him there is a black bag under the bed and asks him to bring it. She gives him her location and suddenly screams. The thug boss takes the phone and tells Chu Ching to bring the bag if he doesn't want his sister to get hurt. The call ends and Chu Ching gets angry as he holds his phone. He takes the bag from Chu Xiao's room and goes to a window. He says he won't let anyone mess with his family as he jumps out of the window and jumps onto several roofs. Chu Ching arrives at the location and enters the building. He sees some women holding his sister and walks to their boss. He drops the bag on the table and asks her to let Chu Xiao go. The boss stands up and says Chu Ching is cuter in person than he is in pictures. She asks how old he is, and he says his age doesn't matter. The boss gets annoyed and walks to the bag. She opens it and sees that it's full of money. Chu Xiao is shocked as she sees the money and wonders how it got there. Chu Ching is surprised that she doesn't know about the money that's in the bag. He wonders how she didn't know and says there are over $1 million in the bag. Chu Xiao tells the boss she doesn't know about the money. She says Xiao Lin asked her to hold on to the bag for a while, and she kept it in her house. The boss tells Chu Xiao to shut up and says she knows she can't steal from her. She says Xiao Lin had the guts to do things in her place and even steal her money. The boss asks her to leave the building before she changes her mind. Chu Xiao thanks the boss and goes to Chu Qing as she prepares to leave the house. The boss stops them and asks her who said her brother could go. Chu Xiao tells herself she knows leaving the building won't be easy. The boss says Chu Qing is young and cute and tells him to stay while she leaves. The end. Thank you so much for watching, my friends. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, hit that notification bell for more videos like this, and we'll see you in the next one.